We were in Aurora, Illinois, speaking with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dennis Hastert. We're going to go back to him now. Mr. Speaker, as you look at more of these numbers coming in, and as you look at this very undecided presidential race, what are you thinking about in terms of making government work in the next few years?
Well, clearly, we have to reach across the aisle and try to do things on a bipartisan basis. I think the president, whoever he's going to be, I certainly hope it's George W. Bush, is going to have to do the same. And I think we're looking for people, and I think the American people are looking for people who are willing to bring people together and get things done. And that's what I've tried to do since I've been Speaker, and I think that's what we'll continue to do.
We've noticed a number of Democrats who work with you in the House have commented on the difference in style between you and your predecessor, Newt Gingrich. Did you go into this position deliberately wanting to be a different kind of leader in the Congress?
Well, I felt very strongly when I became Speaker that we had to prove to the American people that we could get some things done. And I talked about a better education in this country for our kids. We talked about supporting our men and women who serve this country in our national defense. We talked about balancing a budget. We talked about paying down the debt. And we talked about not taking a penny of the Social Security and Medicare Trust Fund and spending it in general revenue funds. We did those things, and especially balancing the budget, paying down the debt, and protecting Social Security. That's never been done before by any Congress. So I think that type of getting things done is what the American people wanted.
Some people have had the impression that Governor Bush, and I'm not clear on this, did not campaign or spend much time campaigning with and for Republican members of Congress. Set me straight on that. How much campaigning did he do with members of the House, members of the Senate?
Well, he actually campaigned with a lot of our members. And when he was in a district, our members were there with him, and especially our members who were vulnerable and our challengers that we needed to get out and get some recognition. He did a very good job, and we're pleased with his cooperation.
Do you agree with his characterization that there has been too much partisanship, too much just bitterness and fighting and division in the nation's capital that needs to be healed?
Well, you know, I tried to get beyond that when I became Speaker, but clearly Dick Gephardt wanted to be Speaker. He set on a policy of trying to stop everything so we would have what they called a do-nothing Congress, and try to blame that on us so that they become the majority. That didn't happen. And in spite of what those tactics were, we did get a lot of things done. And the things that we did do were done on a bipartisan basis. The marriage penalty was done on a bipartisan basis. Tax relief on death was done on a bipartisan basis. The PNTR for China was done on a bipartisan basis. The sweeping banking reform was done on a bipartisan basis. So we will continue to do that.
Well, then, does George W. Bush's characterization hold up?
Well, I think sometimes that people don't really see what goes on. But I think the president can be very helpful to us in trying to help and reach across the aisle in the House and in the Senate to try to get things done on a bipartisan basis.
Mr. Speaker, it's Jeff Greenfield. Some of your colleagues have said that the culture has changed, that there was a time when people would battle politically and then go home and have dinner together and meet each other's families, and that there was a kind of much more collegial atmosphere, and that without putting blame on one side or another, that it's become a much less civil place, that is to say the Congress of the United States. Is the closeness of this election, do you think, potentially a piece of evidence that says to people on all sides that the culture just has to change, that the sniping and the partisanship and going on television and yelling at each other with talking points is just had it?
Well, I think you've watched my performance. I haven't been on television every time you turn around. I've tried to make the House work and to bring people together to make that House work. I think that's what the American people want. A lot of the people who are shrill aren't there anymore. We've had some real changes, and some of them even lost in this election. So I think we're well on the way. I would certainly offer my hand across the aisle so we can get some things done.
Well, that's when
but you have to realize one other thing there is a difference in philosophy between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and we do that fighting it's for philosophical differences as well.
Well, when you point out that some of the shrillness is gone and some of the bitterness has faded, perhaps that's why I'm asking this characterization that George W. Bush was talking about out on the campaign trail repeatedly, day after day during this campaign. I guess I'm asking you, does it match the reality of what you've lived with in Washington the last 2 years?
Well, it's been a tough time in Washington the last 2 years. We had a 1.2% margin of error. Anytime that 4 members or 5 members of Congress got up on the wrong side of the bed, you know, the whole balance of Congress shifted. So, you know, we had to work hard to keep our people together, to move an agenda for the American people, a better agenda for our children and our grandchildren. It was tough to do, but, you know, we didn't lose many votes.
Mr. Speaker, today in talking with one of the people around Vice President Gore, he said if the Vice President wins, he made a bold prediction and said the Patient's Bill of Rights will pass in a lame duck session of Congress. Is that the way you see it, if the election were to fall to the Vice President?
Well, you know, we passed a Bill of Rights for patients in the House. We passed one in 1998. And
well, he's
we're
clearly
to do
talking
that.
about the one the Democrats preferred.
Well, we'll see.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we appreciate